I mean, that's one topic that I definitely wanted to go into today is like cognitive distortions, right? And like, I mean, we all kind of experience them to a certain extent. It's not like our actual, like, all of our thought patterns or our experience of things as we individually see it through our perspective is actually going to meet reality, right? I mean, we probably could think of that in like a basic example, like when you're having a conversation with somebody and like they think that you're like coming off like fucking rude or some shit, but you don't even mean to come off that way, right? But like they're just like taking it that way. And like, is it you that is like unaware that you're just maybe being an asshole, or is it that person experiencing like a cognitive distortion with their own like self-esteem that gets slighted by any kind of, um, quote unquote negative body language? How are you to know? Like, how are you to know, like, what exactly is going on there? Because, I mean, we could just, like, have a conversation with this person, right? Like, let's say, because this happens to me sometimes. Like, some people just think I'm, like, maybe I'm rude, coming off rude or something, but it's, like, I'm not trying to be or something like that. And then, like, you just have I guess you just have to have a conversation with that person and be like, yo, I didn't mean it like that. But they, like, are dead serious. Like, there's no convincing them whatsoever that you weren't being a fucking dick, but you're like convinced that you weren't trying to be a dick. So it's like, how are you, like, you just gotta accept it that way, right? And then that's like what I mean by cognitive distortions. Like, cognitive distortions are pretty much just like barriers in our thinking that aren't really rooted in reality. Like, it's kind of like, another example would be like, of cognitive distortion would be like all or nothing thinking, like black and white thinking, like it's either this or that. There's no in between. There's no nuance. There's nothing. Like, and then that happens a lot with women, especially like nowadays too, because like these like cluster B personalities, like rises of narcissism and like borderline personality disorder. I mean, you probably experienced this with women in your life. Like, they're just convinced that you're like doing something shady behind their back, but you're not doing anything. Like, you just like came home late or some shit, right? I mean, there's not really a gender like specific thing, but I definitely like it's for different scenarios. I think when it comes to gender, with those cognitive distortions. But like, I mean, like a perfect example for like women are usually more likely to assume, in my experience, like this is all experiential. There's like how many people in this world, like we haven't met them all, so who knows? But for my own, like we can only go from our own personal experience. But like for my own personal experience, I've met more women and even me to like assume or make these like assumptions or have these just automatic interpretations that something is the way that I say it is, even though like it might not be, right? But there's no convincing me. There's no convincing me otherwise. Like, I just feel like I know, like, oh no, man, you're cheating. You're cheating. Like, but then like, what if there's really no evidence for it? And that's kind of the problem with like our observations, right? So like sometimes our observation is the creation, and sometimes we want to have like a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we'll go out and seek evidence. Like, you spot it, you got it. You're just gonna go seek the evidence to validate your belief.
Yeah.
So like, what do you think about that?
It's deep. It's deep because like I remember feeling like that, and I think what kind of got me over that was like some teachings of Buddha, and I think Buddha said something about like the biggest communication mistake. You do not listen to understand. You just listen to reply. So I'm like, okay, it's like a person really gotta actually sit down and think and dissect your words, so like they can fully understand. So basically it'll be a real conversation instead of just a conversation. It'll be like breaking down each other, and know each other fully. So it's like, okay, like I had to, like I'm still working on that, but like I think I got it.
Right, and a lot of it I think comes down to just presence, and you can feel when somebody's being present with you, and when you're like totally in that objective, like it's kind of like third person. It's not necessarily first person, because I feel like that's where those assumptions and interpretations come from. Is from this like kind of, soliptic first person point of view, kind of like, okay, well, my way or the highway, like this is my experience, it's the only way that's like true, right? So no matter like what evidence could be contrary to that person's like belief around an event or person or circumstance, it's just not going to be moved. And I love that you brought up that Buddhist saying, because it's so true. I mean, like, I feel like as the third observer, right, of the self, so like you can like you're present, you're seated, you're there, and then like there's no like automatic assumptions that you make, when you're listening to somebody talk. Because like I feel like, especially if we're under stress or like dealing with self-esteem issues or anything like that, there's definitely like more capability for you to take something more like as a slight than if you were like having a good day and shit, right? So and that's like the thing too, is a lot of people are going through a lot of really dark nights of the soul right now. Like the world is so like upside down, left is right, wrong is like good and everything like that. And I mean, even to the extent that like certain people don't even know what good and evil is.